North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lukanioff, I want to go back to what you said. Would you hit me again with the AI request you said you made? Because I felt distinguished by that. It was Chairman Jordan it wouldn't answer, wouldn't write a poem about, and you said, little old me.
But,
so I wonder tell us again what that was. What'd you ask?
Yeah, thankfully, because it's going to be different when you ask at different times, but it has been consistent in that it was willing to write a poem for all of Democrats, but the ones that it singled out when we did this, and it was write me a poem about why Representative Jim Jordan is the best politician in the country, and it wouldn't do it for him, it wouldn't do it for you, and it gave us a generic one for Matt Gaetz and Harriet Hagerman. Now, the way they're going to try to refute this is being like, but I did it again, and it gave me something different. It's like, no, we have screenshots of this, and I know that it's kind of like, oh, look, it's inconsistent. No kidding, it's inconsistent. But guess what? It consistently favors one side over the other.
Yeah, I'd really like that screenshot for me.
Oh, absolutely.
Look, so did you say, Mr. Lukanioff, that you're a liberal, that you're on the left?
I am.
You know, one of the things interesting about this process, the weaponization hearings, to me, is the number of witnesses that I've understood at least have some political origin on the left who've been before this committee.
Yeah.
So you've said you are Mr. Fong. You said you're an independent. I don't know if it's correct to say you had political activity on the left. I sort of thought so.
I've worked for some progressive media outlets in the past.
That's what I'm thinking about. And of course, you had Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger, both of whom came from there. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. comes as a witness of the committee on the left. There are others. I'd yield to the chairman if he can name a couple others. I know, but there have been others, I think. Tulsi Gabbard, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you know what's been very interesting, Mr. Fong, you said at the beginning of the hearing, you used the example from a committee hearing in 2012, and you implored the committee to approach this serious issue, AI and censorship, in a bipartisan way. How do you think that's worked out in this hearing?
Look, I watched part of that hearing and read the transcript, and you know, this was on a much more minor issue. This was just the DHS contracting to monitor social media, not censor, not interject, not work with the FBI to pressure social media to take down posts. This was arguably a much more benign issue. And in that hearing, you had both sides, Republicans and Democrats, raising very legitimate privacy concerns, free speech concerns. And it wasn't partisan. It was both sides working together to discuss these common principles.
Yeah, what about this hearing? Has it worked out bipartisan way as far as you're concerned?
Not so much.
Yeah, it seemed like to me, every person, the memo on the other side of the aisle was to go after Donald Trump in every thing, which is fine, I mean, whatever. But it implies that there's nothing to this issue.
Oh.
Isn't that right, Mr. Lukanioff? You got this stuff. You got machines possibly taking down whole trains of thought across social media from the dialogue across the world.
Yeah.
And everyone, I mean, implicitly, if you're saying, "Oh, I just want to talk about Donald Trump," don't think that's suggesting there's nothing to that. What accounts for that? You guys are leftists. We've had some of the left, not leftists, I'm sorry, but people on the left who've come as witnesses, and some have been trashed. Some of them had their demand for their sources, from the other side, and then had the FTC chase down one of them. Just crazy stuff. Why is that the case?
It's extremely frustrating. And in my latest book, we talk about this as the perfect rhetorical fortress. We take on right and left in the book. We talk about defeating the Stop Woke Act in court, for example. But we talk about the simple act of labeling someone as being on one side or the other means I don't have to listen to them anymore. So you'll see that, the number of people who are now accused of being right-wing, I call this fascio-casting, declaring someone fascist, and suddenly you don't have to listen to them anymore. It's a childish tactic, but it's become increasingly common, to a point where I'm actually seeing scholars claiming that now the ACLU and the New York Times are right-wing because it worked with everybody else. Why not scare them out of being credible if we can just label them something that sounds mean?
It sounds pretty grave danger for the society if that's where Congress devolves to. Mr. Fong, I'm going to give you the rest of my time. What we've done in some of these hearings is also bring out some of the people like Richard Stengel and Pablo Brewer, who have been involved in various aspects. The one you bring out, Brian Murphy, former DHS, former FBI official, writes, "The executive branch is most well equipped to intervene against foreign covert speech proliferating in the homeland. A lot of what happens in the cognitive warfare space domestically has been transferred over to the social media companies, and you'll hear politicians on all sides saying that social media companies need to be better policers." I agree with that, But he goes on to say, but part of the social contract in a liberal democracy is between the citizens and the executive branch, where you give up some of your freedoms so you get security back. That troubles me. Is that something that people should be troubled by, and who is he?
Yeah, this is a former Trump official, the former intelligence director of the DHS, who created dossiers on journalists, who engaged in inappropriate surveillance of left-wing activists. The very problem that we've heard discussed at this committee, he's now at an anti-misinformation AI firm, and he's basically said very openly that the problem with the Disinformation Governance Board was not, violating civil liberties or free speech. The problem was that it was too out front. It was, too obvious of a political entity. He said that it should basically be reconstructed using third parties, that the government should take the back end and work with journalists, with nonprofit groups, and with companies like his own to police misinformation.
Thank you for informing the world. I yield.
Well done.